Chapter 12 of Moon Bear. Tam, Tam, can you hear me? I opened my eyes. I focused on the bare light bulb above me. I could feel the mattress beneath me pressed against my back and my legs. My whole body ached. I curled my fingers in my palm and breathed in slowly. It even hurt to breathe. Cam's ma perched out and looked at me. Tam, are you okay? I nodded and tried to sit up, but she put her hand on my chest to keep me down. Don't move, she said. She turned around. Cam, stay with him while I fetch some water to clean his wounds. I turned my head to look at Cam. He was staring, eyes wide. Ma says you're lucky to be alive. I stretched my arms and then my leg, one at a time. I couldn't feel any broken bones. Cam glanced over his shoulder towards the open door. He leaned forward and whispered, I owe you, though. I pushed myself to sit up. My head ached and I could see cuts across my knees where road gravel had been pushed inside the skin, but otherwise I seemed to be doing all right. What do you mean? I said. Cam held up a fist of money in his hand. I bet my friends you'd be knocked out over the road within the week. I blinked and stared at him. Would you have got more if I had been killed? Cam's eyes widened. I hadn't thought of that. He broke into a grin. See, you are a better businessman than me. I touched my fingers to my head. A huge, sore lump had swelled across my forehead. Cam slapped me on the shoulder and I whined. No hard feelings, he said. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small red flashlight. Have this. Think of it as a thank you from me. I took the flashlight from him and switched it on and off. On and off. Thank you, I said, although I wasn't exactly sure what I was thanking him for. Cam's ma glanced suspiciously at the flashlight when she came back in. It's a present, said Cam. A get-well present from me. Cam's ma narrowed her eyes at him. Get washed before supper, she said. I sat still while she bathed my cuts and made me her sweet spiced tea. She finished and unrolled her cloth in the water. Do you think you can walk? I nodded. I wasn't sure, but I knew I had to be fit enough for work tomorrow. She stood up and backed away to the door. Come for some food when you are ready. I watched her walk away and finish her tea. It had the faint taste of lemongrass and ginger, and already my head was feeling better. I joined Cam and his family at the meal table. Mr. Sloan and Cam's brother had changed from their oiled work clothes. The table was laid with steaming rice and meatball and a bowl of shredded salad. Miss Stones pushed a plate towards me. How are you now? Fine, I said. I didn't want them to be thinking I couldn't work tomorrow. Cam was watching me. I wondered if he made a bet that I would drop my food on the table. Miss Stone was a good cook. Her fish paste was almost as good as Ma's. I tasted hot chili, garlic, ginger, and all the things Ma made cooked at home. Cam leaned across towards me. My brother said before you came here that you would eat like a pig. He said you needed a trough to eat from. Cam, Miss Stone glared at him. Cam leaned even closer and lowered his eyes. He said you wouldn't know how to use the toilet, too. Cam, Mr. Stone tapped his spoon on the table. Enough. I rolled my rice into a ball and stared into my soup. Was that really what people thought of people from the mountains? Did they think we lived like animals? Mr. Stone sat back in his chair and dabbled his mouth. So, Tam, what does the doctor like to work for? Cam and Remy stopped mid-mouthful to look at me. They all knew the doctor. I didn't want them to know I was scared of him. If he found out I didn't like him, I could lose my job. The doctor is a good boss, I said. I am lucky to have him. Mr. Stone glanced at his wife. Well, that is good, he said. I'm happy to hear he treats you well. We ate in silence. Outside the traffic was still busy. Horns sounded across the street. Is he a real doctor? I asked. Mr. Stone looked at me. He went to college. Remy sniffled a laugh. For 1 year, he said. His father paid for him to go to medical school, but he got thrown out. Mr. Stone shifted in his seat. We don't know that for sure. You can buy your way into college, Remy said, but you can't buy brains. Mr. Stone glared at him. Be careful of what you say. His father owns the lodging trucks that use our garage. He's a good client and can't afford to lose his business. Remy finished his food and got up to leave. He lifted his motorcycle helmet from behind the door. His maw cleared the bowls. Don't be late back. Cam got up to leave too. Cam, said Mr. Stone, before you go I have a job for you. Cam groaned, as if he knew what job his father had in mind. Mr. Stone left the room, went to the office and came back with a pile of leaves. He pushed some money across the table. That's how much I'll pay you. I won't negotiate the price. Cam stuffed the money in his pocket and picked up the leaflets. I got up to leave too, and Cam's ma pushed a bowl of bananas towards me. Take one for later, she said. I thanked her and took one, glad to get back to the peace of my own room. I hardly sat down on the mattress when Cam knocked and burst through the door. He was carrying the pile of leaflets. He shut the door, sat them down next to me. Now then, Tam. He glanced at the door as if expecting someone to follow him. He held up leaflets. How would you like to earn a bit of money for yourself? I frowned at him. I could see where this was going, but I could do with the money. Okay, said Cam. He leaned forward, holding the money. I have a deal. You distribute the leaflets, and I'll pay you half of this. I looked at him. That hardly seemed fair. Cam could see I wasn't convinced. It happens all the time in business, he said. I am the middleman. I stared at the money in his hands. He was offering me half of it. Take it or leave it, he said. I needed the money. I'll take it, I said. Cam grinned. Then, my friend, we have ourselves a deal. I didn't mind delivering the leaflets. Cam said he'd come with me this first time to make sure I didn't get knocked down again. It gave me a chance to get out and see the city and ease my bruised legs. I followed him across the street leading towards the city center. I shoved leaflets after leaflets into cars and truck windows. The leaflet showed a picture of Cam's father standing next to the shiny motorbike and cars for sale. He was dressed in a suit and looked much younger than he did in real life. He passed roadside stalls, sitting up for the nighttime markets. There were stalls selling cooked meat and snakes, and others selling washing powder and brushes and soap. I slowed at one stall and looked at embroideries and the silks and colors I hadn't seen before. Ma would love it here. I thought if I had ever earned enough money I would come back here and buy these for Ma. I took the money Cam had given me and bought a spool of silver thread. Maybe I could buy one every time I delivered leaflets. The sun was setting as we were heading back. The air was thick with the scent of sandalwood and cedar. At the far end of some streets I caught a glimpse of the Mekong, a strip of the burnt orange reflecting the sunlight sky. I walked back, hands in pockets. I had the spool of silver thread and a little money for myself. For the first time in my life I felt rich. In my room I peered across the bear farm, hidden in the darkness, silent too. I wondered about Mama Bear. She hadn't eaten all day. I felt for the keys on the string beneath my shirt. No one would know. I stuffed the banana and the flashlight Cam had given me into my pocket and kept in the shadows as I crept across the road to the bear farm. I glanced around to make sure no one was watching, then unhooked the padlock and slipped through the gates. I pulled open the sliding door of the bear building. It was dark inside, dark and silent. I didn't dare put the lights on. Someone could see it from outside, and I couldn't hear the bears. What if they had gone loose? What if Peter had found his way out of his cage and was waiting for me? I reached into my pockets for the flashlight and could shine the stone ahead of me and walked along the aisle of the bears. I could hear the steady breath as I passed. "It's only me, bears," I said in a low voice. I squashed the banana beneath Mama's fingers so the mama bear could eat it easier. I shone the light in the cage as I passed. Bear eyes reflected back, little small moons, bitter groans, low growls, and deep inside his chest. I reached Mama Bear cage. Her fur was pressed up against the bars, her paws outreached towards me. I shone my torch into her eyes, and they were glazed and dull. Her outstretched paws was cold and stiff. I felt a sickness deep inside. I scrunched my hand into her fur and closed my eyes. I felt it was my fault somehow, and that I had let her down. Mama Bear was dead.